Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is the 21st Pauri of War Rag Maj, Mahalla Pehla. Salok Mahalla Pehla, Tumi Tuma Vis, a-sabad-a-day nim phal, मन मुख वसै तिस जिस तू चेतना आवही नानक कहिए किस हंडन कर्मा बाहरे महला पहला मत पंखेरु किरत साथ कब उत्तम कब नीच कब चंदन कब अक डाल कब उच्ची परतीत नानक हुक्म चलाइए साहिब लगी रीत पौड़ी केते कह वखान कह कह जावना वेद करे वखयान अंत न पावना पढ़िए नाही वेद बुझिए पावना खट दर्शन कै पेख किसे सच समावना सच पुरख अलख शब्द सुहावना मन्ने नाव विसंख दरगह पावना खालक को आदेश टाडी गावना नानक जुग जुग एक मने वसावना. On the nature of the mind, the first salok talks about the bitterness, the sullenness, the anger that fills the minds of those who are self-conceited. What that really means is those acting out of ignorance. That is what the ego is. It's a fundamental deception that misleads us all the way. And so Guruji says, what can be said of such self-conceited manmukh? Nanak kya kahiye kis? They are filled with the bitterness of the desert gourd, Tumi Tuma. This is a kind of wild fruit or vegetable, if you will, or a plant, and is believed to be poisonous. And so he lists out the bitter apple, the thorn apple, a-sabad-a-day. The idea is that the manmukh is filled with bitterness, and their speech is also very sullen, like the nim tree, the bargosa fruit. And why is this? Because the Guru tells us, Nanak kahe kis handan karma bahare. That's the key. Karma bahare, that their actions are out of harmony with hukam. Bahare is out of, to be out of sync. They are out of sync with hukam. And this is the nature, the inherent nature of the mind. It is like a bird. Mat pankheru. Kirat saath. Kirat, actions, livelihood, but also points to inherent nature. So we all carry our inherent structure with us. So the mind innately is kab uttam kab neech. It is like a bird. And because of its inherent structure, kirat saath, it is constantly hopping like a bird, sometimes perched high and sometimes settled on the lower branches, which simply means that our mind hops from thought to thought. Some of our thoughts, which like branches are high, meaning thinking is positive, sometimes it's negative. It keeps switching. It's never still. That's the nature of the mind. So therefore, the example, kab chandan, kab ak dal, sometimes on a sandalwood tree, sometimes on a poisonous tree. Again, examples, metaphors for the mind jumping from thought to thought. And kab uchi parit, it is also sometimes moved with a desire and a longing to soar in the open sky. That's part of its nature as well. So we have this ever-shifting mind like a pendulum. It's oscillating between thoughts. And Guruji says, Nanak hukam chalaye sahib lagi reet. So through its hukam, it runs the show. The master runs the show. Nanak hukam chalaye. And this is the tradition. Sahib lagi reet. Reet is tradition, the way. This is the way of the master. This is how it is, to put it quite simply. And now in the Pauri, Kete kahe vakhan keh javana. Many are those who have tried to explain through speech, but have departed without succeeding. Ved kahe vakhyan ant na pavana. Their display of knowledge cannot capture the limitless, antana pavana. So here we are talking about the Supreme Being that is limitless and the inadequacy of our speech and language to actually capture it. And more than that, padiye nahi ved bujye pavana, a caution that it is not through speech, language, reading of scripture that you will solve this mystery. It requires bujna, which is intuitive awareness, if you will. It is like solving a mystery. It just happens like an epiphany. There's no way to explain it. So intuitive awareness is the bujna. And more, he goes on to say, Khat darsan ka pekh kise sach samavana, by wearing the robes of the six orders. Khat darsan, six systems of philosophy that define the Indian systems, referred to as Khat darsan. The six systems are those that are called astic. That is to say that they use the Vedas as their referential point. And then there are Gnostic systems like Buddhism, Jainism, and the Charvakas, three, that are not part of this framework because their framework is somewhat different in the sense that the Buddhist system, for instance, does not concern itself with the prime being, the supreme being, whereas all Vedic systems have that notion. So here the reference is Khat Darsan Ka Pek, and so people belonging to these orders would wear forehead marks, tilak, to indicate which of these six systems they belong to, and they also wore robes and dresses that identified them as being part of one of these six systems. But Guruji is saying, what good is that? How are you going to perceive or grasp the eternal? Khat darsan ke pekh kise sach samavna. How are you going to become like the eternal one? Sacha purukh alak. Why? Because the eternal being is imperceptible. How do you perceive it then? Sabad suhavana. It has a signal which is called sabad, and Guruji calls it the pleasant sabad, the word. So sabad essentially means any sound that can be, any signal that can be heard. So Guruji is saying there is the sabad that we have to learn to attune ourselves to. And manne now bisank, this being has innumerable qualities. So we have to cultivate and realign ourselves to these divine qualities. Manne now bisank darge pavna. If we are to reach the presence of this Sacha Purakh, the eternal being, then this is what we have to do. By listening to that signal called Shabad, we have to acquire these qualities. And Guruji ends by saying, Khalak ko ades. I bow in homage and salutations to that Creator. Nanak Jug Jug Ek Mane Vasavana, that Creator who remains one through the ages. To that one, Nanak pays his homage. So the Supreme Being or Supreme Self that Gurbani defines as Ikonkar is the only independent and eternal principle. It comes into being as Satnam, existence and knowledge. And this Satnam is omnipresent. It makes the universe possible. So as the source of creation, it is actively involved in its existence, and it is omnipresent in the design of everything that exists in the universe. It has divine qualities, but these qualities should not be confused with human intelligence and knowledge. We, in fact, have to work to get to the dargah or darbar, as they say, to that threshold of consciousness where we begin to even perceive these divine qualities. And because the eternal being is not perceptible to the senses, a different comprehension, which we have called bujna, intuitive awareness, is needed. And intuitive awareness will arise only when the unstable and always wavering mind is brought to stillness. And that is done through the sabad. And the sabad is available to us in textual or encoded form. And decoding this message is what we are all trying to do together. On that thought, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.